reveal the truth about American foreign policy.
Wow. Did Rothbard write that, or was that the first sort of guiding principle of antiwar.com?
This was, let's see, how did Murray Rothbard die? I'm trying to, as a kid, and I remember we all sat around and read the horrible hit obit that William Buckley wrote in National Review, because as everybody, I guess libertarians know, that the, American neoconservatism really began when William Buckley threw Murray Rothbard and Ayn Rand and the Birchers out of the conservative movement. And then, of course, we have the life and death, Manchian battle between libertarianism and neoconservatism, libertarianism being life and neoconservatism being death. And I think that's where we kind of summed up in why antiwar.com. That's right. Okay, so Rothbard died early 1995, and then Eric Garris bought the URL in December, late that year, the URL.
So Rothbard was alive and got to see antiwar.com exist?
No. He died 11 months before that happened. But the libertarian drama, right? It's just that Eric and Justin had I don't want to misrepresent this too much because Justin gets very upset by this, but
maybe you should hold it. Maybe you should hold it for the show then. We're coming back in.
Oh, you're not on the air yet. Okay.
No. We're gonna. I just wanted to make sure that we're that our sound works and that we're gonna be able to introduce you properly, and so we're coming live in 30 seconds. So you sound great.
Okay, great.
And I'm looking forward to asking you some more hard-hitting questions. Here we go with Anti-War Radio, right. Or antiwar.com. So just hang tight. Here's some ads, and we'll be live in 20 seconds.
I was in my room. The man lifted up the window and came in.
Were you scared?
Yes, because I thought he's going to take my Xbox.
This is the Onion News Network.
Welcome to Peace News. You're listening live. It's Tuesday, October 7th, 2014. It's 10 p.m. here on the East Coast. I'm in Keene in the Shire. You can learn more about Keene at freekeene.com. You can learn more about what I'm doing here in the Shire, New Hampshire, at freestateproject.org, or my website, derekj.me. You can interact with me and some of the other listeners of our show by tweeting at DerekJME or dialing in 443-424-8347 gets you on the air. You can also send a Skype contact request to Peace News Now. It'll be accepted, and then I will put you across the airwaves. We have a special guest with us this first hour. It's Angela Keaton of antiwar.com, and I look forward to asking her some questions about anti-war, where it's headed, and about what's going on in Syria. Maybe she's got some information about that. Great place to check out the headlines. Also, coming up, we'll be talking about Lois Lerner tries to barge into her neighbor's home to evade questions. This is a pretty funny video. Keene's New Hampshire Robin Hood makes Reason.com. A judge has ruled on the Ferguson Cops 5-second rule, saying that people can't protest in the streets if they are moving around, if they aren't moving for more than 5 seconds. Plus, a boy records some amazing video of the cops smashing into his father's car, then tasing him and taking him away in cuffs. And finally, raw milk and food rights reach the Wisconsin Supreme Court. We have a press release for you from the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund. All that coming up and more on Peace News Now, plus your calls. But first, let's go to our guest. Angela Keaton joins us from antiwar.com. She's in LA. So good to be with us. Thanks so much for joining us, Angela.
Thank you. This is actually really an honor. I've been really enjoying the heck out of your show since I've been on an LRN listening binge since Scott Horton has returned to LRN, which I think is really the natural home for the Scott Horton show. LRN just is an amazing amount of peace and anti-war programming.
Wow, I agree. And I love listening to Scott. I loved listening to him when his show was Anti-War Radio, and now I love listening to him now that it's the Scott Horton show. I'm wearing my antiwar.com shiny badge today on my lapel. So viewers who are watching at home at peacenewsnow.com/live can see that I am a supporter of antiwar.com, and I love wearing this pin out. It's got the red, white, and blue, so it appears patriotic and it attracts a lot of eyes, but then they see anti-war. And it is a great conversation starter. So you can get your own at shinybadges.com. Are they still doing a fundraiser for anti-war there, Angela?
Davi Barker, who's one of the brain trust behind Bitcoin Not Bombs, of which antiwar.com is a big part of, makes amazing pins, and he handles our pins. So however that works, I just let Davi and the guys handle it. I don't know how the magic works, but the pins show up, and it's great. If you go to Bitcoin Not Bombs, which I'm sure I know this is all cross promoting with everyone's shows, but Bitcoin Not Bombs is definitely a site to check out, where you can see the work of MK Lords and see just kind of the ways we're trying to apply peace.
It's one of my favorite websites because it really focuses on something that I think we could all get behind, is a voluntary currency and promoting peace. That's what it all comes down to. I want to see an end to these bombs being dropped on innocent people around the world. And I know one way to do that is to disempower the American empire by stopping using their currency. So Bitcoin is a fantastic way to do that. I encourage listeners to donate Bitcoin, both on my show and to antiwar.com. I have a QR code, in fact, on the screen, and at Bitcoin and at peacenewsnow.com/donate. So let's talk about antiwar.com, Angela, because to me, you are synonymous with antiwar.com. But as I found out in our pre-show interview, antiwar.com existed long before you. So tell us what the website's about, a little bit about its history, and how you jumped in.
Well, the history began in late December of 1995. Eric Garris, our principal founder, bought the URL. And I think at the time that was Clinton's wars Clinton was doing wars, but the site really became kind of a full-time effort by the time the U.S. went into Kosovo. So really, it was an outgrowth of the Clinton era wars, which most of us have forgotten about now. But Clinton was bombing Iraq every 3 days, or shelling it every 3 days, roughly on average. I think my source material for that is Dirty Wars by Jarvis Cahill. But yeah, we've been at war for Iraq for a long time, and the U.S. is always at war because we're a giant empire. But that's where antiwar.com, that's when it officially started. It goes actually back, the founders were Eric Garris, Justin Raimondo, Alexia Gilmore, and Colin Hunter. And for those of you who are libertarian history nuts, those were they were members of Murray Rothbard's Radical Caucus 2 of the Libertarian Party. And so, yeah, the roots go way back to that. And, they were kind of the classic Rothbardian idea that the war is the worst thing the state does. It absolutely is. Of all the things the state does, it's the worst. It steals money from people who have no power to kill poor people all over the world. It's really a horrible, horrible thing, and it's something that every presidency does. And this is nothing new for libertarians, and we know the party affiliations mean nothing. It's just the war party.
Now, I go to antiwar.com regularly for headlines because I do a peace-centric show, and I want to know what's happening all over the world. Antiwar.com does a fantastic job of covering the stories that the mainstream media just won't dig into. So talk a little bit about that and how you do story selection.
Oh gosh, it's a great concept. It's a great idea that we do story selections. When I started back, I first met the people involved with antiwar.com in 2006 when my buddy in Austin, Scott Horton, and my collaborator on a lot of radio projects had began to work as the link editor for Justin Raimondo, which Justin was one of the kind of the first people to do hyperlinking in articles instead of footnotes. So this is kind of the way that antiwar.com really kind of set itself apart, in addition to being not partisan. I mean, we're not selling the libertarian agenda, and we have everyone. And the old thing we probably certainly say, everyone from Pappy Ken to Noam Chomsky, it's on, they're on there. But the story, when we had a bigger staff, when we had more money, and that was during, I think, really when things were really kind of together during the Ron Paul revolution, because that's what really kind of rejuvenated the anti-war effort. In 2008, this is when I came on full time. It was going to be a really unusual time, because that was when Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton was going to, it was decided who was going to be the nominee. So We had a bigger staff then, but what happens is we receive links, and we search for links, and everyone who's involved in antiwar.com is responsible for searching links. When it doesn't matter what I'm doing, and I'm probably the least knowledgeable on foreign policy, but we all do it. We put links in there all the time. When we wake up in the middle of the night, we put in links. We're constantly reading. Everyone's constantly reading, particularly Scott Horton and Jason Ditz. And Jason is our news editor. And so if you go to news.antiwar.com, you're going to see and I really want to push these articles, these news articles, and I should say they're really news shorts. Jason takes of the dozens and dozens, let's say, of articles on a particular story that day. Everyone's putting something out, the BBC, the Guardian, and a lot of obscure sites that are reputable, and a lot of, let's say, good writers, real journalists. So they'll kind of compile it, and Jason will condense it down for something between 300 to 500 words, and makes it really readable and understandable to normal people. And it's a really amazing thing what Jason does. And all of this is managed every day by our webmaster, Eric Garris, who basically starts the day, we start the earliest crack of dawn, and the site is finished at midnight Eastern time. So you're always seeing a new, fresh page every night. The only time we don't change the editorial opinions are Saturday evening. So that's sort of it's close to a dark day as we get, but actually there's fresh news, and if something breaks, Jason's on it. So. But a lot of things are read, primarily Scott does quite a bit of the selection these days. And we've had some great editors. We've had John Glazer, who's currently at Cato, and he's an amazing writer and journalist on foreign policy. So someone you should look up when you're looking at the Cato Institute website.
We have to step away for just a moment, but when we come back, I want to know more from Angela Keaton about antiwar.com. How do they sustain themselves? How much of a staff is there? And how can I contribute to antiwar.com? All that when we return. This is Peace News Now.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so.
All right, Angela, great first segment. I have you on for the whole first hour, right?
However long it takes, I'm really trying to. What I've been focusing on this week is thinking and going over and reviewing a lot of strategies about the anti-war movement, and someone's got to do it. So tomorrow, actually, I'm going to be on Ernie's show with Cindy Sheehan for about 2 hours, where we're just going to be really hard on everyone to get people back out there, and it's good.
Yeah. Okay, great.
It's time.
All right, cool. Well, I want to have you for the whole first hour if I can. We've got a 3-minute break. It's a 4-minute break, but by now it's 3 minutes. So I'll return, get a glass of water, whatever you need to do.
Oh, sure.
And then we'll do another 10-minute segment.
Terrific. I'll go grab the water. Be right back.
All right.
And Murray Rothbard, where we'll examine an article or an excerpt from his works and help convey his view along with our little spin as well. We wrap it all up every Friday with Felony Friday, where our own John Odermatt goes out and takes a look at some sort of felony. There's felonies committed every day, whether it's a felony committed by the police, a politician, or even an average citizen. You can find all of this and so much more over at lionsofliberty.com, advancing the ideas of liberty daily.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phone, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.lrn.fm. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit the Liberty Radio Network when you shop at Amazon via shop.lrn.fm. On LRN.FM, we talk a lot about alternative currencies. Did you know that now you can buy gold, silver, and other precious metals with Bitcoins? LRN.FM has partnered with Amaji Metals to bring you great prices on beautiful .999 fine silver, as well as gold, platinum, and other metals. Check out their selection and pay with Bitcoins or Federal Reserve notes at metal.lrn.fm. That's metal.lrn.fm.
Did you know that you can listen to LRN.FM 24/7 via our free-to-air satellite channel? From Mexico to Canada, our signal covers nearly all of North America. All you need is a view of the southern sky, an affordable receiver, and a dish as small as 30 inches. There are no monthly fees. Learn more at sat.lrn.fm. Plus, if you're a broadcaster or want to be one, this is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage map and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippies! Jesus. On your knees!
What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you gotta keep you and your get intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Vadadi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift.
Okay, we're coming back.
That's gunsandweed.com.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News. We are live. We're chatting with Angela Keaton of antiwar.com. She mentioned in the last segment Scott Horton of the Scott Horton Show. That show also broadcasts on this network, the Liberty Radio Network, at lrn.fm. That's every weekday from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's terrific to be able to listen to the Scott Horton Show. I absolutely love it. Angela, you said you got involved with antiwar.com partially due to Scott's involvement. And that's where we left off. I wanted to ask you about how antiwar.com sustains itself and about how big of a staff there is and whether or not I can participate in anti-war as just a regular listener or reader. So those questions in no particular order.
Well, I mean, depending on it, I'm including half-time and quarter time, but there was a time when there was about 15 people. We're down to about 5 and a few permanent volunteers. And we sustain ourselves primarily through donations of about $45 to $50 per person. This is just ordinary readers. We do accept major donations, and we'll take grants and larger foundation money, but we've not. It's not a cause that people, want to give a lot of money to. Things were a little bit different in the Bush era because the corporate liberals and the weak tea progressives were much more enthusiastic about the anti-war position, but then it was more of an anti-Bush position and a cultural kind of a cultural wars matter than it was an actual anti-war stance. So basically what we do to stay up, and of course we also have ads. Anytime you see an ad, and if you see an offensive ad, please tell me and I'll flag it, but are the ads on the page, please click them. There's our Amazon link affiliate program. Monthly donations are really the bread and butter. So if you give $5 and $10 a month, that's always appreciated. Since a lot of people, are still living, fairly conventional lives, we tax it. We're a 501c3. We put out tax receipts. So, and of course, we take Bitcoin, the peace currency, or at least right now it is. And there'll be other digital peace currencies too. It'll be one of a market. But as you as a listener and as a reader, one is first of all, any donations of any kind are welcome, and we're certainly appreciative of all things. Also, posting the links and posting the shows on social networking. It's really, really important that people read the links, especially Jason's news write-ups, because it really summarizes what people need to know. And part of what I'm doing right now is I'm on a campaign to get people to read the top stories at antiwar.com and post them and talk to normal people about them. What I mean normal people is, when I'm speaking to the LRN audience, I mean, we're talking about people who are part of the North American libertarian world. Right? And this is like this is where the action primarily is, and speaking to a very serious, hardcore anarchist audience in many cases. But most people are not don't think the way we do, and I think one of the ways we're going to have to do is really kind of think about how we approach people. And I've gone through changes on this. I was reacting pretty much to kind of our Come Home America branding when we were doing, getting people to think, left, right versus the empire. When it was Ralph Nader and Cynthia McKinney and Chris and Chuck Baldwin and Ron Paul, coming together and breaking down coming down to the most basic principles of how we can end empire. But Occupy kind of overshadowed the new peace movement when we were attempting that, because we were really kind of on a roll there. And Occupy definitely changed things a little bit, some for good and some for bad. So now we're 6 years in the Obama regime, and I am ready to really take another approach now. Is basically we address people's concerns, normal people's concerns. Normal people's concerns are about safety. They want, they want national security, and they want to know that they're going to be able to practice their religion and all their other identities and however they express themselves without a different culture coming in and overwhelming it, which, obviously I'm referring to the fact that if you watch Fox News, the Islams are coming, it's the insanity and the bigotry and the racism, but I don't see any point in confronting normal people about the bigotry and the racism. It's not, we're trying to actually change minds in a very active way. And we saw some things really change with Syria. We saw normal people getting up at town hall meetings and saying no. And this was last year, when the first attempt to go at this, it was fairly clear that the American people did not want to go to war with Syria. So you can make some changes, and I realize, political action, it's sort of a crapshoot. But I don't want to stop people from doing it, and it's really important that people, say that they resist. It really is an moral issue, ethical certainly, but I mean, it's a moral issue that you stood up and said no to the violence, that you said no to torture and occupation, because these are the worst things that anyone could be doing. I mean, we're talking, you're talking about mass murder, talking about killing civilians, you're talking about killing elderly and children and poor people all over the world. And it's rarely the political elites of any of these countries, and certainly not as if we're, bombing the our friends, the Saudi royal family. Or any of the other governments that we collaborate with in the oppression and stupidity. So the best way, though, that you can do it is to read the articles on antiwar.com and talk to people about them, and know, just in a calm, rational way. Ron Paul has a lot of success in explaining the matters of Iran to people this way. When you give them the 50, 60-year historical context, then suddenly things start to make sense, and then you realize, maybe we have the different approach to it. In the past few years, I've really kind of focused on speaking to conservatives about the war, and that means talking to people about budgets, which, for us, it's kind of we're all about, obviously, none of us here support taxes or taxation or theft. But when you're talking about the deaths of people, it almost feels like, oh my God, I'm talking about, cutting, Pentagon budgets here and there, and we got so many deaths. But I thought it was a really good way to reach economic conservatives. And I also, think that, we're trying to approach, the people on the matters of, a lot of people think that they believe in the Constitution. Now, there's plenty of, at least when I was back in graduate school, way back in the day, plenty of studies to say that people don't really, they believe in the Constitution as sort of a religious faith document, because they're told that in the Church of the Civic Religion, which is our educational system, where and this happens in private schools mostly too, where you're learning kind of the official history and the civic religion of manifest destiny and empire. But it's that, and I totally lost my train of thought because I was getting so angry about historical schools.
Well, it sounds like there are a lot of ways that average listeners or readers of antiwar.com could engage and take personal responsibility for helping to end these wars. The old strategies aren't working, and kudos to you for trying something new and engaging with those who perpetuate the war, those who are willing to either silently go along to get along, or those who actively rally in support of wars. So it sounds like one thing that listeners could do is to just go to the website on a regular basis, click the links, and share them with their friends on social networks. That's where you're going to be engaging with the average people, right?
Normal people. Those are the people who who are concerned about ISIS. And I know, and listening to your show, I know we're not supposed to be,
but are you?
No, I'm gosh, no, and I'm not terribly concerned about Ebola either.
Well, let's talk about that. Not Ebola, but ISIS and the growing threats around the world. Or are they growing? According to most statistics, the world's a safer place than it's ever been. This is Peace News.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved.
Okay, so we've got another 4-minute break. That was terrific. I really enjoyed all of your suggestions there for what listeners can do. So I did show up on the screen while you were talking for a little bit, your QR code and your Bitcoin address. So I'll display that during the break here now so that while we're away, viewers and listeners can click that link or scan that QR code and donate in Bitcoin to antiwar.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we will come back at 7:33 p.m. Pacific time. So hang tight, and I'll put the ads back on, and we'll be back then.
Liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com. When I found the Free State Project, I knew it was the key to achieving liberty in my lifetime. It's awesome to be surrounded by like-minded, freedom-loving activists who've moved here to New Hampshire. From politics to civil disobedience, we have it all. Where I came from, it felt that no matter what I did, liberty was dying. Perhaps you feel the same way? Call 888-377-2515 now to learn more about the Free State Project. That's 888-377-2515 or visit freestateproject.org.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com.
Keenvention is coming up October 31st through November 2nd. Get your tickets now at keenvention.info. Keenvention is your chance to meet dozens of key liberty activists from across the Shire. You can explore the beautiful little city of Keene, discuss various forms of activism with seasoned veterans, attend social events like the costume party. Keenvention received rave reviews last year. If you missed it, visit keenvention.info for full video coverage of every speaker and panel. This year, James Robin Hood Cleveland, Rich Paul, and Free State Project President Carla Garrick will be keynoting. And we'll have all kinds of panels, including the new Cop Block panel and the New Movers panel hosted by the outlaw Josie Wales. Join old and new friends and neighbors in Keene for Keenvention this October 31st through November 2nd. Only 100 tickets are available in advance, so lock yours in now for just $60 or with Bitcoin. Reserve your tickets now at keenvention.info. Visit keenvention.info for more, or look for our page and event on Facebook. That's
okay, here we come back.
.info.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
Welcome back to Peace News. We're live at LRN.FM. Also, you can catch video of this show at peacenewsnow.com/live. there. You'll also see a chat room. You can interact with other listeners. I've signed in there. You can also dial into the show 443-424-8347 or Skype Peace News Now. You can tweet at me. That's Derek J. M.E. So I'm speaking with Angela Keaton of antiwar.com. She is the director of operations at antiwar.com. And I'll share with you once again on the screen a QR code for those of you who use Bitcoin. You can quickly scan it and send some Bitcoin across the internet to antiwar.com. And so as the director of operations, Angela, what sort of operations do you oversee?
Everything from fundraising to social networking. Thank God I have a great person who helps me with that too. Dealing with correspondence, people, authors and journalists who are kind of, that kind of a liaison with, the readership, journalists, authors, the professors, the people who write for us regularly or submit links. And basically all of our inbox, our antiwar.com receives all kinds of interesting mail every day. So I do that. Usually when I get up in the morning, first thing, I check to make sure there's no emergency disasters with any of anyone's, whether it's someone's credit card or someone found a link and says, do you know who these people are who wrote this? Can you tell us, if this is a good site or not? Everything basically that my boss Eric Garris wants me to do, which it's a lot of it's hard work, but it's a lot of fun in the sense that every day I learn new things, and it sharpens the way I think and see about the world. But it's definitely a job that's changed me. I'm not the same person. And I kind of thought at this point in my life I'd be, practicing real estate law, a house in the suburbs, have a few kids kind of thing. And I didn't, somewhere along the line that didn't happen. So I'm trying to make this work because, it's sort of like, how do you explain, like, wow, I did this for many, many years, which was, fight against the empire, which in a lot of ways is an exercise in futility. And I wanted to take a really secret peek at tomorrow's page of antiwar.com for you, something I'm not supposed to do. But I didn't realize this. Afghaniversary is the top story. The U.S. occupation turns 13. And that means tomorrow, today is the U.S. occupation of Afghanistan officially entered its awkward teen years. This 13 years ago today marks the first U.S. attack of the conflict, airstrikes on Kabul and Kandahar. And that's from our news editor, Jason Ditz. And that's always to check. If you go to news.antiwar.com, you can generally find some of the things as soon as Jason puts them down, that they're there. And that's kind of where you're going to find the latest. But when I say latest, we do breaking news all the time at antiwar.com. But in terms of our, stories that come from, they're from antiwar.com staff, it's sometimes hours. And I submit a lot of links and we'll, give information, breakings. I'll monitor Twitter usually at one eye during the day, but the editors take their time and comb over the facts and do a lot of double and triple checking. And a lot of times webmaster Eric Garris will tell me, yeah, you sent this link in, can you find different confirmations and who are they from? And this is why, for example, yesterday, there was the market in an Iraqi market, there were 22 civilians killed. And we took our little time. I found that on an obscure source on Twitter, and took our time, and Jason and the other editors really sit and try to nail down the facts. This way we have a pretty good record of being right. We haven't had too many errors, and our staff, I've got to say, this is really an amazing place to work because both our current and former staff, if someone makes a mistake or someone finds out facts are incorrect, they correct it immediately, publicly, and explain why we thought this and now why we think that. It's not that, we're all obsessed with transparency or anything. We just, we're trying to be straight shooters about what we think are the most important things and why. These things are too serious to have a whole lot of kind of foolish pride invested in, being perfect. And we try to stay away from sensationalism. We really try to keep the facts, and we kind of keep our, I'm not into tone policing, but for the purposes of what we're doing, we try to not, scare the hell out of people. We really don't think that's not our style, and we really want to stick to things that we can prove. And that's kind of why we really take our time, and we don't endorse, there's lots of different, conspiracy theories, and certainly no one's anti-conspiracy, since, the literal definition of conspiracy is that, it's not anything as as ominous sounding as people say, oh, conspiracy theory, but it's really important that we nail down the facts, and that's why we really take our time and think about these things and the way they're presented. So yes, so I totally forgot that tomorrow is the continued occupation of Afghanistan, which has sort of been forgotten because ISIS is the new buggy word. And the second story on tomorrow's page is the one that I sent out all over the place today, including places like Liberty.me. Is U.S. airstrikes kill 22 civilians in Iraqi market. Attack hit apartments around marketplace, and basically that is ISIS held town of Keaton, killed at least 22 Iraqi civilians and wounded many more, according to locals. The strikes hit a marketplace along with apartments along the roads of the market. Locals say they believe the intent of the target was building containing ISIS fighters just down the road. Indications are that building wasn't hit. So that's from Jason. And he worked on that today, and that's pretty typical. And that's the kind of thing we also want to keep the focus on. One of the things about what we're reporting in the U.S. and people do cover foreign policy, and it's a more complicated thing than let's say just like, oh, it's all lies. But the way things are framed, when deaths are discussed, it's always discussed in terms of U.S. Army deaths or maybe NATO ally deaths or whoever our current set of allies are, but. And I'm going to say because unfortunately, by force of gun, most of us are forced to pay a tribute to the state through something called taxes. So, in a sense, this is us, and it's pretty disturbing and damaging. But we think about this is going on the page every day, and there's going to be a lot of stories on ISIS tomorrow. There's been several stories, but what's really important is going back, and I want to recommend highly. Scott did a really, really excellent summary on what you need to know about Iraq. You can see it on the antiwar.com blog where it says Angela Keaton interviews Scott Horton about Iraq, Syria, in the old days. But it's basically I want to thank Liberty.me, so we could use that platform to record an hour of Scott discussing Iraq in a couple four or five different sections of the past since the early 90s, and why to make it make sense. And then there's a half hour of questions from the Liberty.me audience after that. But it's really important that people kind of review these facts, because most of us, there are people listening, and I think this is true, certainly true for you and lots of people that I know, is that the U.S. has been doing something horrible to Iraq his or her entire life.
That's right.
So I very much want people to understand the context for it, because without none of this makes any sense without context, and that's often what you're missing on CNN, which the Pentagon channel, and Fox and MSNBC have their own bizarre spins, but basically they represent the corporate state, and which is very connected to the military machine. And people are good with that. And I do blame Americans, the average American, the people that we're trying to convince with gentle persuasion and not force. Is going up to people and screaming at them that they're racist is not going to help. Even though even though it's in fact true, true doesn't maybe make it effective for the larger truth of we've got to stop empire, and we've got to make people understand at whatever level if they're ready to understand it. And if that means that I was going to I guess at the bottom of the hour, I was thinking, last thing that I did that was that I thought effective, and I guess realized is more fairly controversial, but since the U.S. is vaguely a mainstream Protestant country, more or less, is to actually ask people, what is Christian about breaking up and moving around families? What's Christian about high rates of alcoholism, adultery, divorce, and ultimately suicide, which is something that and domestic violence, all these things that are the wonderful military lifestyle.
Good question. What's Christian about war? Plus, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the FBI and antiwar.com's relationship with the feds. Plus, does it ever bum you out? I need to know. As a person who skims through these stories all day, every day, sometimes it gets to me. Does it get to you? We'll come back with more. This Peace News.
This Your Family Today tip is brought to you by Lil Drums. Every bit as fun as a full-size Nestle drumstick cone, and definitely cuter.
All right, so you have a preview of the upcoming questions that's
I can't wait.
That's what we've got for. You've got another 4-minute break, and then we've got a 10-minute segment that ends at 7:57 and a half. So, you can either watch the second clock or you can listen. It sounds like you've been able to hear the intro and outro beds pretty easily, and it sort of gives you a cue that we'll be wrapping up in 30 seconds. So I look forward to our remaining segment. Thank you very much, Angela.
Oh no, thank you. What you do, it's just been such a delight to listen to your show in the afternoons and to listen to Daryl with his show, and it's just a great afternoon lineup that I'd been missing for a while, and I'd been preoccupied with some other things, but and I started listening to Freedom's Fiends. That's a great show too.
I love that one. Yeah, they're all my favorites at LRN.FM. Ian puts a great program together, and we're very fortunate to have 24 hours of entertainment, pure peace, 7 days a week. So we'll be back in 2.5 minutes. So I look forward to reconvening with you then. Peace.
Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm.
Are you a political activist who does things that the government might not like? Then this free ebook may save your life. Rats is your guide to protecting yourself against snitches, informers, informants, agents provocateur, narcs, finks, and similar vermin. Rats was written by OG libertarian Claire Wolfe. Rats is a short book, easy to read, and available free in many formats. Download Rats free at rats-nosnitch.com. That's rats-nosnitch.com.
Instead of just listening, you can also watch. See the Liberty Radio Network's key New Hampshire-based live shows via our studio cam at cam.lrn.fm. Plus, you'll still be able to listen to the Liberty Radio Network via the cam feed in high quality 24/7, even when there's no live show being produced in our Keene studio. But wait, there's more. Our chat room is built into the cam page so you can interact with other listeners online. Listen, watch, and chat, all free at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
Hey, it's Cody O'Connor from Off the Air Live, and the only thing I believe in making you do is laugh yourself silly. And what am I doing here but trying to tell you about how I'm bringing comedy to LRN.FM. This show is all about me saying things on the radio that you're not supposed to say on the radio. How I treat my radio show is a lot like my position on immigration. Literally no boundaries. And boy, do we cover it all, from news, politics, culture, music, whatever the hell you want to talk about. And you'll hear me praise a lot of the things that I like every once in a while, like, boobs, beer. But I'll spend a lot of time ranting about the things that I hate. Like stupid people in the government. I guess that is kind of redundant, huh? And besides that, we do take your calls. We're pretty much everything that a real radio show is, plus more swearing. You hear Off the Air Live every Thursday and Saturday night at 10 p.m. on LRN.FM. And if that's not enough, you can go to offtheairlive.com and get all of the archives.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Welcome back. This is Peace News. You can catch us online at peacenewsnow.com. We're also broadcasting live at lrn.fm. You can call in, share your thoughts, ask questions of our guests. 443-424-8347 gets you on the air. Or you can send a Skype contact request, as Nathan in Texas has done. That will get you on the air, and you can share your thoughts. Go ahead with your thoughts. Nathan. Oh, sorry. Had the interviewers muted. Go ahead with your thoughts, Nathan. All right. You're on the air. All right, we're going to have to wait for Nathan to get connected with us. So I apologize for any technical difficulties while we're waiting for Nathan to get connected. Let's ask Angela, what is antiwar.com's relationship with the FBI, if any?
A very close and intimate one, apparently. Yeah, I think, I mean, lots of LRN listeners have heard me tell the kind of basic timeline, but it bears repeating because as much as we joke about being under surveillance, it's a little less funny when, in fact, your webmaster and editorial director have been personally under some kind of have FBI files for several decades, but specifically antiwar.com. We know this from actual records. So the ACLU is suing the FBI actually on our behalf to get all the records, but antiwar.com has been under FBI surveillance since 2002. And the most recent activity that we've received is 2012. So my assumption, though, that I operate on, and this is why I've always been a little bit of a privacy nut, sure my personal privacy, is that there's no reason to believe that the FBI is still not monitoring antiwar.com. So it's something that I was going to say, it's something, one shouldn't complain about these things, because certainly, bombs aren't going off in our backyard. I'm not seeing any children's limbs being blown off, but it's of the aspects of the job. What's the only thing worse than the FBI surveillance is the fact that you're reading about death every day. And it does get to different staff members in different ways. It's certainly, I'm not going to pretend it's not gotten to me. It certainly has made me see the world differently and has changed my interactions with people. And it's really changed my priorities in libertarianism to a large degree. So it's absolutely transformative, I'd say.
My other question was, as a journalist, as someone who puts these stories up on a daily basis, does it ever bum you out to follow the topic of war?
Oh, I mean, it does. There's a certain amount of desensitization in some ways, but I can be rather overly sensitive at certain times, and it does. I mean, I will occasionally tear up for no reason. Actually, it's not no reason. Something will trigger it. I saw on Twitter today the photograph of some Kurdish woman who people were saying, "Oh my God, this woman killed herself in order not to be captured by ISIS." I have no idea whether it's propaganda or not. It's a very pretty woman, and I thought to myself, "Holy crap! This is what this world is about." This woman, the picture of this woman, she must have been 25 at the time, if that. And I thought to myself, my God, what a horrible, horrible world we live in. So, I mean, it does absolutely affect me. It's changed how I see things. It's gotten my head out of my rear end, and I'm a different person than I was, let's say, growing up on Long Island, and my concerns were tennis lessons and paint lessons, and how my nails looked. So I think it's made me a different person, to be certain.
We have a question from one of our listeners who joins us now via Skype. Nathan, you're on Peace News. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Hi, Derek. Hi, Angela.
Hey.
Well, there's a question that Michael Dean always asks on the Freedom Fiends, and before I ask it, I just wanted to thank you for doing antiwar.com and for a little radio show called Liberated Space, which I used to listen to back in the day.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be listening to the Fiends if you hadn't done that show, because, the libertarian people doing audio tended to be the bow tie wearing professor types. So there wasn't a lot of alternatives to that.
Are you out of Boston?
No, but I am in Texas.
Okay. I just thank you for mentioning that.
Right. So my question is something that Michael brings up a lot on the Freedom Fiends, which is what happened to all the anti-war liberals? Were they swept up in the the rapture of the left, or like where'd they all go? And how do you deal with
excellent question? No, this is really good. And I just want to make sure that, since we're all on the same page here, is that, I'm not talking about the hard left. I'm not talking about the kind of people who, with Cindy Sheehan were protesting, who went out on Martha's Vineyard to protest Obama, or, counterpunch readers. I mean, there's lots of, the hard left exists in this country, but it's very, very small. And there are places like the Left Forum where you'll pretty much only hear, well, almost 90% anti-war voices. But the corporate left, corporate liberals, members of the Democratic Party, and kind of the people who identify as progressives but are really still part of that apparatus, everything that the neoconservatives and the nationalists say are true about them. I mean, it was an anti-Bush. It was an anti-Bush movement. It was a toy in the culture wars to bat about. It really was never. They never. First of all, they didn't bring the ideological heft to any of it. Their reasons for not supporting war were entirely partisan, and partisanship is like a religion in this country. It's kind of subsumed, since kind of Protestant Christianity has been subsumed by empire politics. What has replaced it, besides the therapeutic state, is partisanship, that kind of politics, that team spirit, team identity, and as I call it, team blue, green versus team teal. It's I mean, obviously it's the same team. It's the war party. It's the corporate state. But no, they did get swept up in the great Obama rapture. They got swept up, and they so badly wanted to believe that Barack Obama was a community organizer and someone who would be sensitive to racial minorities and racism generally, and all these great progressive things. But in fact, of course, when he came into office, he was actually a little weird about gay marriage because he wasn't quite ready to announce that gay men were human beings or anything. But on all the issues of war, of course, he was absolutely horrible, and I've gone through some of the reasons for that. But the amount of deception that amount of self-deception that a Harvard law school constitutional lawyer who was in the pocket of Goldman Sachs was in any way going to be anything different than a center-right, representative of the corporate state and of the warfare state. So it turned out exactly the only way that anarchists could see it turning out. With we don't have an anti-war movement that wasn't anything other than Ron Paul youth, the hard left, and some very, very elderly people from the old right who can remember when conservatism meant things like you kind of mind your own business. You don't go looking for problems out overseas. You just mind your own business. Let other people sort their things out, which is a good policy in just about every area. Mind your own business. Let people do their thing. Don't interfere. It just seems to be common sense and healthy boundaries, but we haven't really gotten that far yet in our evolution.
Well, thanks a lot. I realize it's probably you encounter this at anti-war with when there's a Democrat in office, you probably get more outreach from the right, and then vice versa, and that kind of thing. So I was just interested in how you thought about that. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you for the call, Nathan.
Well, thank you. I guess a follow up.
Angela, you still with us? I may have disconnected from both of our guests when I tried to disconnect from Nathan. So I apologize to Angela if we got disconnected. I will try and reconnect with her now. But I did want to know if it surprises her, as Nathan brought up, that anarchists are the most consistently anti-war. Over the past few decades, there have been groups of support from the left and support from the right, but that seems to change with who's in power. So to Angela, does it surprise you that over the decades, anarchists have been the most consistently pro-peace?
Not at all. I grew up in a house run by objectivists and Rothbardian types, so none of this shocks me about power. I was going to say, the right didn't really reach out during the Obama years, unless you mean the kind of right wingers that were awakened by Ron Paul. I don't mean awakened in the Alex Jonesy sense. I just mean maybe there is somebody who kind of speaks our language, who sort of gets the concept of the little republic, the humble republic, instead of a giant empire. So it was during the Obama years, that's actually been really hard, because in the early part of Obama years, taking a position against Obama meant you were siding in the minds somehow how this could possibly be. You're siding with white supremacy, which of course only makes sense in a world completely destroyed ethnically by war.
Oh no, we'll have to leave it there. I wish we could go on longer, but Angela, you've been very generous with your time. We'll have to have you on again sometime. Antiwar.com is the website. Go there, donate, support them in the peace currency of Bitcoin. So glad to have you with us, Angela. Thanks for being on Peace News today.
Thank you.
All right, antiwar.com. Peace News returns after this trip to the free market.
Attention. Have you been?
All right, thanks again, Angela. I really appreciate your time tonight.
Oh, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on.
Always a pleasure, and be happy to have you on anytime. So good luck with your Freedom's Phoenix interview.
Oh, thank you so much.
Cheers.
Good night.
Recovered millions and millions of dollars for injured clients. There are no out-of-pocket costs to you ever. We only receive a fee when we win your case. We are available 24/7. If you've been in an accident and been seriously injured, make this free call to our attorneys now. Call the Personal Injury Center at 800-648-9173. 800-648-9173. 800-648-9173. That's 800-648-9173. This ad is paid for by participating member law firms. We are not an attorney referral service. Representation may not be.
The three most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same great prices, and LRN gets a cut. Please do your online shopping at shop.lrn.fm.
If you want to move to the free state and you're looking for some real estate, well, I know a guy who's really great. It's the realtor Mark Warden. Do you want a home with 20 acres, a lakeside cabin? Any takers for renters, buyers, and sellers too? Mark Warden is the guy for you. PorcupineRealEstate.com.
More Peace News Now is coming up next, live after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Tuesday, October 7th, 2014. Silver is trading at $17.36 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,208 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $328. Antiwar.com reports former Defense Secretary Leon Panetta was harshly critical of President Obama's handling of the new war against the Islamic State, saying the U.S. could have sustained the 2011 Iraq occupation and started arming Syrian rebels even sooner than they did. But perhaps the most eye-opening comment in his new book tour was that he believes the conflict is a 30-year war that will extend across the world, including campaigns in Nigeria, Somalia, and Libya, among other places. Panetta's new book, entitled Worthy Fights, argues that the Obama administration repeatedly erred by not taking a more hawkish position, including saying that the U.S. should have invaded Syria outright in 2013 instead of making the deal for Syria to scrap its chemical weapons. He went on to argue that the 30-year war he envisions is a chance to repair the damage caused by not launching massive wars in the previous years, calling the lack of wars missed opportunities. Vice President Joe Biden was quick to criticize Panetta, although not on the content of his hawkish comments. Rather, Biden said it was inappropriate for Panetta to criticize Obama at all on anything until after 2016, and that he should at least give the guy a chance to get out of office. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. For over 35 years, Roberts & Roberts has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They now take Bitcoin for purchasing precious metals so you can turn your profits into a long-term investment. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on investing. 800-874-9760. The Associated Press reports the Supreme Court unexpectedly cleared the way Monday for a dramatic expansion of same-sex marriage in the United States, and may have signaled that it's only a matter of time before same-sex couples can marry in all 50 states. Rejecting appeals from 5 states seeking to preserve their bans, the U.S. Supreme Court effectively made such marriage legal in 30 states, up from 19, and the District of Columbia, taking in every region of the country. Challenges are pending in another 20 states. Almost immediately, exuberant couples began receiving marriage licenses previously denied to them. Monday's terse orders from the court were among more than 1,500 rejected appeals that had been piled up over the summer. The outcome was not what either side expected or wanted. Both same-sex marriage supporters and opponents had asked the court to resolve whether the Constitution grants same-sex couples the right to marry nationwide. The justices did not explain why they decided to leave the question unanswered for now. They may be waiting for a federal appeals court to break ranks with other appellate panels and uphold state laws defining marriage as between one man and one woman, or they may see little role for themselves as one court after another strikes down state marriage bans. ExpressCoin is the best choice for buying Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and more. ExpressCoin prides themselves on their customer service, so much so that the back end on the website should allow them to be even more focused on your needs. Get your cryptocurrencies with money order, check, wire transfer, or cash deposit. Get started at expresscoin.fppradio.com. That's expresscoin.fppradio.com. Reuters reports pro-democracy demonstrations in Hong Kong rolled into early Tuesday, with hundreds of students remaining camped out in the heart of the city after more than a week of rallies and behind-the-scenes talks showing modest signs of progress. Student-led protesters early on Monday lifted a blockade of government offices that had been the focal point of their action, initially drawing tens of thousands onto the streets. Civil servants were allowed to pass through the protesters' barricades unimpeded. Over the past week, tens of thousands of protesters have demanded that the city's Beijing-appointed leader quit and that China allow Hong Kong's people the right to vote for a leader of their choice in the 2017 election. A first meeting to pave the way for formal talks between government officials and student representatives was held on Sunday. Another is expected today. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
It's a landmark day in the March for Equality here in America. Congress passed the Casinos for Fairness Act today, which gives every mistreated group in America the right to open a casino.
It worked with Native Americans. It will work for the rest of the country. If our society has kept you down, you will get a casino to pull yourselves back up.
Veterans will also have the right to open a casino as a replacement for costlier benefit programs.
I think it'd be nice to have a casino. I mean, I'd rather still be able to walk, but, you know.
While the majority of the country is hailing the Casino Act as a step forward, many Native Americans are objecting to the law.
We are still the most disadvantaged group in America. So all that we ask is that we be allowed to open poorhouses and start legally selling cocaine.
The bill raised the question of whether immigrants should be allowed to own casinos. After much debate, the legislature decided that they would not, but they will be able to sell sliced mango on the street without a vendor license.
This is the Onion News Network.
This is Peace News. Welcome. We return for the second hour. We're live at lrn.fm and at peacenewsnow.com/live. In this hour, we've got a news story for you about Ferguson's judge who decided that the cops who came up with their own 5-second rule, turns out that was unconstitutional. We've got that story. But first, we may have a very special guest, Cody Drummond of peacekeeper.org. We're not sure if he's with us. Cody, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Awesome.
So it's good to have you with us. You are, of course, the brain behind the Peacekeeper app, which folks find in the Apple App Store and the Android Store. I know I've got the Peacekeeper app downloaded on my phone. Tell us about it. What's going on?
Yeah, so the Peacekeeper app is an app that pretty much allows you to set up a private emergency response group. It's kind of made for neighborhoods and households, and it allows you to send, receive, and respond to pretty detailed emergency alerts, being medical, fire, intruder, and abduction. The idea is to send out alerts to the people that can actually get there in time, that are close to you, and people that actually have a personal incentive to help you out when something happens.
So this is what it looks like. got it up on my phone. If I had an emergency, I would hit one of these buttons. I don't want to hit one now because I'm not having an emergency. But one of the benefits of these is that it's quickly accessible and it's on a thing that's with me everywhere I go already. This is better than an emergency link that I would wear on my watch or something, because this can connect to the internet and can tell all my friends all at the same time that there's something going down. This is something that I would use as an activist if I wanted help in any sort of situation, not just a fire or a medical emergency, but more often than not, probably if there's a police abduction. That's what I would call it. But talk about the ability to form groups and how people like me might be able to use this app.
Yeah, what we suggest is the first thing people do is go to their friends and family with the app. And get them on the network, because if something goes down like a medical emergency, you break a leg or someone has a heart attack, a lot of times your friends and family are close enough to come pick you up, perform CPR, take you to the hospital, do a lot of different things, whereas the emergency services likely won't be able to get there that quickly. After you get your friends and family on the network, we highly recommend that if you have some neighbors that you know and trust, you get them on your network, because that's kind of the bread and butter of Peacekeeper is the people that are closest to you. So if you have neighbors that you like, you can send out alert, and they might be at your house within a minute because they live right next door.
Right, there's a real advantage to having your friends and neighbors be on this network. Not only are they people that you already trust, but as you talked about, there's a practical incentive because they're much closer to you in physical distance than the police or the people who are allegedly supposed to take care of you or respond to emergencies. And of course, we know the Free Talk Live talks often about the 2005 Supreme Court decision, and that there have been many others since then, that the police have no obligation to protect an individual. So this is really important, seeing news stories hitting the headlines nearly every day about negligent police who just watched a crime happen and said, well, it would be a little too dangerous for me to get involved. I think we would much rather trust our friends, at least I would. Talk a little bit about that, Cody, about having your friends and neighbors be your first responders.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's scary. A lot of people think, some people even think it shouldn't be allowed. In my opinion, first of all, it's important that people get some basic training if they're going to be responding to some of these emergencies. For example, intruder, if you're going to be responding with a weapon, you should have some training in using firearms. However, I think most of the time, in most situations, maybe not all, but in most situations, it's better to have someone that you know and trust with a little less training than a complete stranger that supposedly is trained and is the professional. Just because, the people you know and trust know your face, they know your identity, they know the layout of your home. So they're already coming into the situation with a pretty big advantage. On top of that, they have a personal incentive. They care about you. Whereas, if you call the medical services, they may or may not care about you personally. There's a good chance that they'll be more apathetic to you because, they see these situations all day, every day. And I think they begin to become numb to people over time.
Yeah, and I've seen many news stories of, young girl lashes out at parents. Parents call police for help. Parents shot. Or intruder enters home, steals from family. Family calls 911. Family shot. Intruder perfectly safe. These stories happen all the time, and I wish I were making this up. But that just wouldn't be possible if your friends are the ones who are walking through your door. They're not likely to shoot you, or at least they're not as likely as police, statistically. So, yeah, you mentioned that it's a little bit different there's a little bit of risk involved. There's a little bit of courage involved to take personal responsibility for protecting our neighbors. But you blew my mind during our last interview. You brought up a pretty simple idea of putting fire hoses out where there are fire hydrants. Talk about that.
Yeah, right now we're just getting started here. And, even though we did create the app is not all we're about. We're about any tools and systems that will advance voluntary systems of emergency response. We think people should have fire extinguishers in their home. I know personally that I've put out 13-foot fire with a garden hose that would have burned somebody's house down if I wasn't driving by at 1 in the morning. I don't see any reason why citizens and normal people shouldn't have the ability to like a neighborhood group to go in, purchase a fire hose. I think they're a couple $100 and have a hose right next to the hydrant. You can have a combo lock on it, and if there's a fire, somebody who knows how to use it goes out and pulls it out and starts tapping into the hydrant and using it. I don't think people are too stupid to be able to hook fire hydrants or fire hoses into hydrants and put water on fire.
I would agree with that. And, as embarrassing as it is to admit, it really blew my mind when you brought that up, because it's one of those things that when you're raised on a plantation, it just seems to be that the master's in charge and he's the only one who can solve the world's problems. But that's not true.
Right. I mean, I came from the contracting industry, and I know how to tap into a hydrant because we used to use fire hoses and hydrants to fill up swimming pools, and the hoses are pretty readily available. You can get them at a lot of different shops, and tapping into a hydrant, it's not difficult. It's actually pretty easy. The first time I did it, I had no training on it whatsoever, and I did it just fine. It was just common sense, really.
What I really like about this app and about Peacekeeper's attitude is it's not about asking permission. It's about having courage and taking personal responsibility. How did your philosophy of Peacekeeper develop?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot, and honestly, I always answer a little bit differently because different things come to mind. What I typically tell people is I grew up as a pretty pro-police state person. I believe that we had to have this special group of people that were tasked with protecting us all, and everyone else had to be submissive to those people in order to avoid anarchy. And what I began to realize is that's a very dangerous mindset and thought process, because it allows for the possibility of whoever those people are to get more oppressive, more out of control, and violate people's rights over time. So
Cody Drummond. His app is called Peacekeeper. Check it out in your app store on your smartphone, or go to the website peacekeeper.org. Hanging in there?
Yeah.
How you doing? Sorry we didn't have any time to pregame.
Oh, that's fine. Thanks for having me on. I had a couple of mic issues, but I guess I got it worked out.
Yeah, you got it worked out. It sounds fine. It sounds great, in fact. I always appreciate it when a guest comes on with a high-quality microphone. It makes it much more pleasant to listen to.
Well, I actually bought this microphone because you told me it was a good mic, so thank you for that.
Excellent. Well, great. I hope you've gotten some use out of it with some other interviews as well. It's one of the best microphones I do recommend to people if they're doing, if they want a USB mic. So if you would tilt your webcam down a little bit, it would show more of your shirt there. Now I can see your Peacekeeper shirt. Now, actually, maybe I should change into mine. I've got one. I'll change into it. We've got 3 minutes left on this break, so what the hell? We've got some ads, and then you've got more to say on Peacekeeper, right?
Definitely.
Stick around for another segment?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
And commentary in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com, and the monthly newspaper FPP News at news.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.
Did you know you can get news updates about what's happening with the Liberty Radio Network delivered in the way you prefer? You can sign up for our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. Plus, you can stay in the loop by joining our Facebook profile at facebook.lrn.fm or follow us at Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm. It's all free, so sign up now at updates.lrn.fm for news updates delivered to your email box, facebook.lrn.fm to follow our Facebook page, and twitter.lrn.fm to receive our tweets.
Liberty activists around the country are starting to realize politics alone won't set us free. So what will? At Liberty on the Rocks, we believe the answer starts with living your principles, spreading ideas, and connecting with those around you. By starting a Liberty on the Rocks network, you can make a difference by uniting libertarian thinkers. Find out how much fun it is to build your local network from the ground up. Visit libertyontherocks.org today to get started.
Imagine someone in your community getting in their car, turning on the radio, and hearing the Liberty Radio Network. You can make that vision a reality with your own micro radio station. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how you can put our programs on the air in your area. You can have LRN.FM running around the clock, and you can even add in your own local shows. Building a radio station is simple, but programming isn't. That's where LRN.FM comes in. Learn more at broadcast.lrn.fm. That's broadcast.lrn.fm.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. Find out about giving to our Google AdWords campaign at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com.
Okay, we're coming back.
What's up, man?
Awesome.
Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
Peacekeeper.org. You're listening to Peace News. We're on with Cody Drummond of Peacekeeper.org. He is the brain behind the Peacekeeper app, and hopefully much more in the future. But right now, it's just we've got an app, and it can do a whole lot of things. It can send a message across to a network of friends, letting them know that an emergency has happened, what type of emergency. It can connect them, put them in a chat room, let you know who's responding and with what distance, and it's pretty cool. And it's so revolutionary. I am a believer in this app. I think it could replace the police if people use it. And so my first question for Cody in this segment is actually a question that comes from a listener in the chat room who says, question for guest, how to convince people to use this app? For example, if it's an old fogey who doesn't want to mess with it, or a liberal who believes police are fine. How do you respond to those types of objections, Cody?
Yeah, so I can tell you how I brought it to my family. You know, I pretty much took it to my parents and brothers and said, hey, you know, I used the medical example because that's probably the most common emergency you're going to get out of all four of these. And I said, hey, if you have a heart attack...
I mean, they're looking for a solution. As people grow older, sometimes they buy those devices that they wear around their necks. This is one solution for folks who are aging. They don't have to feel like an old person who has to wear something around their neck. They can be hip and young and have a smartphone and be able to respond, you know, have their family come and visit them if they need to.
Absolutely. And, you know, what I told my family was, hey, if there's a medical emergency, you know, send out an alert. It'll go out to a bunch of different people, and we can come drive you to the hospital or help you out, you know, or if your house is on fire, send an alert, or someone breaks into your home, send an alert, you know. So I just, you know, with my family, I really dealt with the practicality of it because I don't think you need to get into all the police stuff. You can, for a lot of people, that's very appealing. that they don't have to deal with police as much. But the practicality of this system is so awesome, where it's just like, well, you know, it helps you be safer. You know, it raises the standard of protection.
Well, that's one thing I've never considered, especially as a person grows older, their need for an ambulance grows. So this app, it costs money, right? It's $3. I think it was $2.99 that I spent on downloading this app. Is it true that this?
Correct. The app is a one-time fee of $2.99.
Okay. So for $2.99, I can send out a blast message to all my friends and neighbors letting them know, I broke my leg, I need a ride to the hospital, instead of spending $1,000, $2,000 on an ambulance that's going to drive me half a mile down the street. I think that's a pretty good savings. What about you?
Right. Yeah, and in some situations, you know, for $2.99, you can get an alert where someone can, if you had a heart attack or someone drowned, and someone can come faster than the ambulance and perform CPR, they might save a life for that price.
Yeah,
in a lot of instances.
And then that's priceless.
Yeah.
Wow. So what other challenges have you faced in developing this app? Surely it takes a lot of guts to bring an idea to fruition. This went from a thought in your head to a reality on my smartphone and smartphones across the country and the world. So what sort of challenges did you face? And did you ever think, I should just give up?
Yeah, you know, over the past about 3 years now, it's been very hard, especially because of the fact that I've got a wife and 3 kids, and the amount of hours that I've had to work and time I've had to sacrifice away from the family and stress that's brought and financial issues. That's been like the biggest challenge, is just not only doing the full-time day job, but finding the time to put in the time for Peacekeeper as well. You know, so the biggest challenge has just been time and resources. You know, I'm happy to say that I finally left my full-time job about 2 weeks ago. I moved out of the area where housing is cheaper, and I've got a small cash reserve, and I'm now doing Peacekeeper full-time. And I've got a couple months here to make something happen. And
wow, that's really cool. Congratulations. You know, that's sort of a level of dedication to your success. When Cortez, I think it was, one of the conquistadors, went to invade South America, he burned his ships and said, we either win and conquer these people or we die. And when you do something like pick up your family and move and dedicate yourself, saying, I'm going to cut off my revenue stream of my former job, my former life, and dedicate myself to this project, it's a lot like burning your ships and saying, I'm in it.
Right. It's either going to be the best or worst decision of my life.
Well, here's to hoping it's the best. I'm wearing the Peacekeeper shirt here today. Can people get this? Or is this available on your website?
I see it. Absolutely.
Okay, very good. So that's at peacekeeper.org. And is that a sort of a fundraiser as well? Do people, you know, does that help you out when people buy these shirts?
Absolutely. That helps fund the team. That helps pay for the updates to the app and the maintenance on the servers and many other things.
So what can people do? Obviously, I bought the app. I'm invested. I want this thing to take off and succeed, but I can only buy the app once. I've only got one phone. So then what? If I want to continue to help Peacekeeper, how should I be engaged? What should I be following?
Yeah, I'd say there's 3 things people can do. One is just get the app. You know, it's $2.99. It's not very expensive, and that helps us maintain a few things that we need to maintain. 2 is get some friends and family on board. You know, get them to get the app, link up with them, and test it out. Do some experimenting and start practicing the lifestyle. Number 3 is, if you're really down with what Peacekeeper's doing and you support the cause and the vision, go to the tribe section of our website and become a member. It's like $25 a year, and you get some cool perks. You get one of those shirts, you get some decals, and you get plugged in with kind of the insider Peacekeeper community.
Tell me more about that. What's the tribe thing about?
Well, you know, with the app, the idea with the app is to allow the revenue we make on the app to fund the minor updates and kind of maintain the system. But we also want to do future developments, and we also want to build bigger and better systems and grow out the network and facilitate training. So anything that comes in through the memberships is going to support those bigger, greater ideas that Peacekeeper has. So we figure, hey, if there's a lot of support for our actual vision, then we'll have the funding to actually do those things. If not, if we just get kind of a lot of app sales, then we can just maintain the app as is.
Interesting. Okay, great. So it's a sort of way to measure the market response to what people have to this app.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. Well, what's the response been like so far? The app's been on sale, available for like 2 months now, is that right?
Well, the app on Android has just become available recently in the newest version. We had a false start, so we started promoting for like a day and then we stopped. And we've actually done that a couple times. Now we're finally to a point where we can actually publicize the app. So
yep, this is the real thing. The app is available for download in all the stores, right?
Well, on Android.
On Android? Oh no! It's not on Apple anymore.
Apple, it is still available for download.
Okay, very good.
But we're releasing the latest version on Apple, and it's still in Apple's review process. They take forever.
There's still more coming up. This is Peace News. Oh man, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. It's funny because we'll submit the same app to Apple and Google will take like a day, and then they'll say, "Oh, it's good, it's approved," and Apple can take like 3 weeks.
Yeah. I don't know what they have to do first. I mean, what?
But most of our user base is on Android, anyways. So
I would imagine so. Yeah, but you can't have one without the other. There's yeah, that is so difficult, man. Well, there are a lot of challenges to bringing an app to market. I'm encouraged by your persistence, so thanks for doing it. Even despite all the false starts, that could be real discouraging, and I'm glad you stuck with it. There's a community of people here in Keene who's been, really waiting to use this app, and finally we had people downloading it over the past few weeks. We meet every Saturday, so on Saturdays is when we got to sort of play around with it and do some example emergencies. But we haven't used it for any real emergencies yet, thank goodness. And I hope we don't ever have to, but of course there is. That's what it's there for. So I'll be eager to report back to you when that time comes.
Awesome.
In the meantime, we have 2.5 minutes on this break, and I'd love to ask you more questions if you're willing to stay for another 10-minute segment.
Definitely.
I have more questions. Okay, good.
Hi, I'm Clint Webb, and I'm running for Senate. I have a short cropped haircut, a pretty enough yet accessible-looking wife, and a newborn baby that I've dressed in a suit to prove to you that I mean business. For the last 15 years, I've lived my life in such a bland, uncontroversial, and repressed manner that it's almost unnatural. Why? Because I've been preparing to be your representative since I was a child. Most well-adjusted, sane men would be hesitant to take a job where their decisions would so drastically affect the lives of so many. But not me. I possess a sort of sociopathic narcissism that makes me think that I should be in charge of everyone. But all of that needs to start here at home, in this beautiful state that I've grown to love since I moved here 18 months ago. Together, we can piggyback some of our state's legitimate needs onto my unquenchable lust for self-glorification. And that's a promise.
The 3 most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.LRN.FM. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. It's my firm belief that the AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented groups. Support all your favorite organizations, but make sure you give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think like you? Liberty activists are joining the Free State Project, which is over 70% of the way to its goal of 20,000 participants. And they're already making the move to New Hampshire. The successes are piling up and are proving the Free State Project is a real movement and no longer just a great idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. From demonstrations and vigils to outreach and volunteer.
Hey, Cody, can I ask you questions about being a dad?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I had you muted. Can I ask you questions about being a dad?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
At freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
Peace News on LRN.FM. We reconvene with you. We're talking this Tuesday, October 7th, 2014, with Cody Drummond of Peacekeeper.org. He's the brain behind the app that could save your life or your friends, your family, could even replace police. That's my opinion, but it takes you, the users, to make that possible, to make that happen. And we're talking about how we can spread the idea of personal responsibility for responding to emergencies. Obviously, the practicalities are all there. The morality is there. We just have to get people to change the way they do things. Right now, we're a little used to the government taking responsibility for these things. But we've become accustomed to that. Maybe it's not for the best. And we return with Cody Drummond. You can ask him questions. You can dial in 443-424-8347 is the Hi-Fi Civ Dis line. Gets you on the air. You can also send a Skype contact request, Peace News Now. But let's return to our chat with Cody. When we left off, we were talking about how there was a few false starts with the app. That was some of the challenges that you faced bringing this to market, that you're still waiting for Apple to respond. And so what's the update with that? Just so we're totally clear when people can get this app, because it's absolutely imperative that when it's available, people get it and use it.
Yeah, so within 2 weeks, it'll be available on iOS as well, with a version exactly like the Android version.
Okay, very good. That's important to know. And the price point will be exactly the same, $2.99 one-time fee?
Correct.
And that was important because you listened to the Peacekeeper community when there was a rollout a few weeks ago. Talk about that.
Yeah, you know, originally the idea was to roll this thing out and charge a subscription fee that would actually fund the whole operation, fund the vision, the future updates, the networking, the training. And what we found out very quickly is a lot of people don't necessarily want to just pay for all that stuff. They just want to use the app. So, you know, after getting a lot of feedback, we said, well, why don't we separate the two? Why don't we make it so that, hey, you got to purchase the app because we have to live and we have to maintain the servers and do the updates and pay the developers. And then if people want to support us moving forward and doing all the other great things we want to do, they can become members, and they can support that.
That's right. And they can become members. Where is that? Peacekeeper.org. There's a link there?
Under Tribe.
Under Tribe. Okay, perfect. Easy enough. So Peacekeeper is the app. I have to mention, by the way, since your name is Cody, I don't interview that many people named Cody on the show. The only other person is Cody Wilson, and you and Cody Wilson are like two of the people who are bringing stuff to the market, some of these disruptive technologies. I think it's pretty cool. There must be something about the name Cody that makes a person more of a disruptor.
Yeah, I guess it's like the Wild West, Cody, kind of rebellious.
Yes.
A renegade.
So you are a father. That's one of the things that makes you a little bit different from Cody Wilson. You how many children?
3 children.
And you raise them a little bit differently than your average American dad. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think we definitely do. You know, one thing we're going to be doing is homeschooling. We're not going to be sending our kids to public school.
Why is that?
You know, I try. because I'd never trust my child in the hands of a stranger for like 12 hours out of every day. That's to me that's insane, especially an institution that's run by the state.
Now, it surprised me to learn, Cody, that just as recently as 3 decades ago, homeschooling in America was outlawed.
Wow, I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. But you yourself were homeschooled, true?
Correct.
So
Well,
for you, it's sort of
I was very self-taught. I did not go to school. I did a little homeschooling, but I was very self-taught.
And so you value this education model for your children?
A little more structured than what I had, but something similar that gives the child the freedom to learn what they want to learn.
It's been kicked around for decades, this idea of one of the peaceful ways to resist is to outpopulate those who support the state. What do you think about that idea?
You know, I think that's another great tactic, and I think there's a lot of great methods and tactics that everyone who loves liberty should be utilizing, and that's one of them.
So there's a movement called the Blue Ridge Liberty Project. BRLP.org is their website, and they're focused on moving parents to the same geographic location to infiltrate in that area and expand outward towards peaceful parenting. What do you think about that idea?
I don't know enough about it, but I would say that if we did decide to move for some kind of a project, it would definitely be the Free State Project in New Hampshire.
Cool. I did that. I think it's a great idea. Obviously, I endorse it. freestateproject.org. If people aren't familiar, the idea is to move 20,000 liberty-loving people all to the same geographic location, New Hampshire, for the purpose of achieving liberty in our lifetime. And that really is the goal. That's my goal. And I would love to see Cody and Cody Wilson and all peaceful disruptors convening in this geographic location. We're already having a ball. The people who have moved already number over 1,600, and all of them are early movers. The trigger has not yet been met of 20,000 pledges, or whatever they're called, the participants. So it would be very exciting to see you, and I extend an open invitation anytime you want to visit, Cody. Come on over to Keene, New Hampshire. You will have a great time and meet lots of other like-minded thinkers.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, and anyway, sorry, thanks for the plug for Free State Project. I think it's a really important idea, because one of the ways that this app will get, I think, a lot of its use is through people who are participants in the Free State Project, people who are in the same geographic location, who get to build their own voluntary network of peers who can respond to emergencies. So it is sort of a perfect match for this app. I'd love to see the Free State Project, and Keene in particular, be a model for other tribes, so to speak.
I would love to see that too, and I think it does make a lot of sense.
What sort of reactions or what sort of feedback are you getting from tribes in the early days?
So if by tribes you mean like the peacekeeper hubs or groups, I'm getting a lot of very positive feedback. You know, there's a lot of people stepping up saying they want to organize meetups. There's a lot of people offering services with training. A lot of ex-military and ex-law enforcement that have some pretty killer expertise that are saying this system's great. This is exactly what we need, and they want to get involved. So, you know, I think over the next several months, especially, we're going to begin to grow this thing out and really have a solid system that's going to present a lot of different opportunities.
What sort of suggestions have you heard for future features?
Suggestions from the community have been definitely there's a desire to bring the system outside the home, which we will be doing in the future. And there's also a lot of activists that have been asking about a live streaming option when an emergency goes out. Now, this is very practical, not just for activism, but also for emergency response, because if there is an intruder or medical emergency, you can live stream to all the responders, and they'll have a really good idea of what's going on.
We're going to have to leave it there. Our guest has been Cody Drummond. You can find him at peacekeeper.org. Do yourself a favor. Go buy one of their shirts. Go join their tribes. Download the app. Get it on your phone if you're an iPhone user. Just wait 2 weeks. Download the app then. It'll be available. Thank you for being with Peace News tonight, Cody.
Thanks a lot, Derek.
Was arrested by the...
All right. That was awesome. I'm going to round out the last 15 minutes of the show with flash news. We'll just jump through a bunch of news stories. So thank you so much for being on, Cody. I'll remove you from the call.
Thank you very much, Derek.
You're welcome. I'll eject you from this call. This is such horrible language that Google uses. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. And join us again anytime, Cody. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right, Cody is ejected. And what a cool name. It's true. You know, Cody Drummond, Cody Wilson, if there are any other Codys working on the Freedom Project out there, come on the show. You're all a bunch of badasses. So we've got more. We've got another 10 minutes left. Still time for your calls if you make them quickly. 443-424-8347 is the call-in line. And let's go back to ads, and we'll be back in just 3 minutes.
They've already gotten model legislation introduced in California, Arizona, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas, meant to limit the power of the NSA to spy on Americans in those states. We'd be fools to wait around for the U.S. Congress or courts to roll back Big Brother. Our best chance is nullification and interposition on the state level. Go to offnow.org, print out that model legislation, and get to work nullifying the NSA. The hero Edward Snowden has risked everything to give us this chance. Let's take it. Offnow.org.
If you can't listen to the Liberty Radio Network's internet streams, free satellite channel, or radio affiliates, no worries. You can listen to LRN.FM from any phone, anywhere. Add this number to your phone. 213-493-0309. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The Liberty Radio Network listen lines are locked into our stream 24 hours a day. Call 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
Why does a U.S. orthodontist make more than some CEOs? You get that dental bill and you'll know. Implants, partial or full bridge, the kids need braces? Fractions of U.S. prices. Balloon angioplasty for heart patients in the U.S. is $50,000. Thailand, under $7,000. Heart bypass, joint and hip replacement, cancer, many procedures under the price of your Obamacare deductible and copay. Don't risk bankruptcy. Hit us up now. We'll show you how at AsiaRunLikeHellGuide.com.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phone, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.lrn.fm. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit the Liberty Radio Network when you shop at Amazon via shop.lrn.fm.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippies! On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you got to keep you and your get intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Vadati.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
You can watch the LRN Studio Cam and chat with other listeners anytime at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
Happy Afghaniversary! What am I talking about? Today, the U.S. occupation of Afghanistan officially entered its awkward teen years. 13 years ago today marks the first U.S. attacks of the conflict in Afghanistan, airstrikes on Kabul and Kandahar. The Afghan war at 13 seems very much like it did in years past, with the Taliban in control of vast territory and the Pentagon claiming progress doesn't seem to have any real impact on the ground. This story from news.antiwar.com, where Jason Ditz writes that untold billions have been wasted. The advancement of the Afghan war into adolescence doesn't mean the end is near. Indeed, last week, the new Ghani government signed a deal to keep U.S. and NATO forces on the ground through 2024 and beyond, ensuring at least another decade of occupation. The plan right now, at least from a PR standpoint, seems to be claiming the war is ending at the end of the year, when the troop level gets down to 10,000 U.S. ground troops. Yet, those troops are staying more or less forever, with re-escalation a possibility at any time. Just one of the many important stories brought to you by antiwar.com. Here's another headline. U.S. airstrikes killed 22 civilians in Iraqi market. The attack hit apartments around a marketplace. Also by Jason Ditz, who writes, a Monday U.S. airstrike against ISIS-held town of Hit has killed at least 22 Iraqi civilians and wounded many more, according to locals. The strikes hit a marketplace, along with apartments along the market. Locals say they believe the intended target was a building containing ISIS fighters just down the road. But the indications are that the building wasn't hit, with locals saying it was likely a mistake. CENTCOM's own statement on the matter simply mentions an airstrike west of Ramadi, hitting an ISIS-held building, but offered no details on casualties. The Pentagon further claimed the incident of civilian deaths was false and that they had seen no evidence of any civilians killed. The same blanket statement they've made for every other airstrike in Iraq and Syria, even after they've been confirmed to kill civilians. The lack of decent intelligence on what the U.S. is actually hitting in airstrikes is likely to give way to more such incidents in the weeks, months, and years to come, as officials continue to ratchet up the air war. Just tons of important stories featured at antiwar.com to get you the story of the real news, what's going on in the Middle East and around the world with the Anglo-American Empire. But if you're sick of empire, and I kind of am, let's turn to what's happening here at home. We're in Keene, New Hampshire, where this Reason.com and the Union Leader, the largest newspaper in New Hampshire, where in Keene, activists continue to fight legal battles against meter maids and city bureaucrats. The city of Keene, New Hampshire continues to spend its money trying to prevent local Free State Project activists from daring to pay expired meters and talk to meter enforcement officers, as reported by the New Hampshire Union Leader. Quote, the city's appeal of the dismissed lawsuit against Robin Hooders is set to come before the state Supreme Court this month. In the city appeal, city hired attorney Charles B. Bauer argues that the Cheshire County Superior Court erred in finding the Robin Hooders' actions are protected under free speech. So in other words, the Robin Hooders, who are people who go around the streets of Keene feeding parking meters of expired parking meters of people whose cars would otherwise be ticketed by the parking enforcer, they walk in front of this parking enforcer and make sure that she can't write any tickets. They do this 6 days a week, and there's no parking enforcement on Sundays. So essentially, they're preventing people from getting tickets any day of the week, no matter who you are or where you're coming from. If you're parked in Keene, New Hampshire, it's pretty safe bet that you're going to be okay and ticket free when you return to your vehicle. But the court said this is protected free speech. Whether or not they're speaking to the parking enforcement officials or remaining silent as they plug those meters, this is a political action which is protected by the First Amendment's right to free speech. The article continues, quote, "The defendants do not have a First Amendment right to create hostile conditions that are intended to force municipal employees to choose between suffering daily and ongoing harassment or quitting their jobs." Bauer states in the appeal filed with the Supreme Court in June, the city filed a lawsuit in May 2013 against 6 citizens who are part of a group who have dubbed themselves Robin Hood of Keene. All but one in the group admitted to patrolling downtown armed with video cameras and pockets full of change to fill expired parking meters before a city parking enforcement officer can issue a ticket. Then, the city filed a second suit in September 2013, seeking monetary damages from the citizens. But, quote, in December, both civil lawsuits by the city against the group were dismissed by Cheshire County Superior Court Judge John Kissinger. In his December 3rd decisions, Kissinger granted the group's motions to dismiss based on their argument that it was within their constitutional right to free speech. And this was blogged about at Reason.com back in May when the state's earlier efforts failed to punish Keene's anti-meter maid activism in court. And you can get the full scoop at Reason.com or at freekeene.com, which also has an in-depth commentary by Ian Freeman and some of the other Robin Hooders. But this is just a fascinating story to me because it proves that the government can never just leave well enough alone. That these Robin Hooders, they weren't hurting anyone, and now that the city or the city bureaucrats have decided to use threats of force, the court, against these activists, they've been able to continually, peacefully resist, continue to do their activism, and spread the word about their activism internationally because of all the news stories that this controversy has created. So this is just amazing to me that the city at any moment could just say, you know what, we give up. Uncle, we're going to drop it. This isn't worth our time. It's not worth the taxpayers' money. It really just makes us look like evil villains, and we're not going to pursue this any further. But they can't. They of course they could, but their pride won't allow it. So this is just a fascinating story. I look forward to following that. Another story from home is hopeful regarding courts, where Ferguson Police's 5-second rule is found unconstitutional. Ferguson's protests no longer have to keep moving if told to do so by police. This story at Mashable.com. A federal judge decided on Monday that a so-called 5-second rule imposed by police on Ferguson's protesters is unconstitutional. The judge, Catherine D. Perry of the U.S. District Court, Eastern District of Missouri, wrote in granting a preliminary injunction that, quote, the practice of requiring peaceful demonstrations and others to walk rather than stand still violated the Constitution. The rule refers to a tactic adopted by August 18th by St. Louis area law enforcement when officers at a roll call were instructed to tell protesters that they had to keep moving or face arrest. The tactic was used by top officials in the Highway Patrol, St. Louis County Police, and St. Louis City Police in the days and weeks that followed to disperse protesters who had gathered to protest the fatal shooting of Michael Brown. Many of those encounters were captured on video and shared on Twitter. Hover over each Vine video below at Mashable.com and click the speaker icon to hear the orders. That'll have to do it for today's episode of Peace News. We will return on Sunday. In the meantime, catch us online at peacenewsnow.com. And you can listen to all of our past broadcasts and watch them on video at youtube.com/peacenewsnow.
Why did you move to